Hi there everyone, Life DIY Josie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today is Thrifty Thursday, when I do a throwback of one low budget idea every Thursday. Now on to the first hack that I am going to be creating, and this is for our eggs. The pink basket that you see here is from Dollar Tree. When I bought this was only for $1, but nowadays they cost about $1.25 each at the Dollar Tree. And I am just using the egg crate to my advantage rather than DIYing additional items. Again, this is when free comes in handy. So with the original egg crate that I cut to size to fit the inside of this basket, I was able to fit 15 eggs. And since I still have enough space above it, I can also cut another crate to the same size so that I can put 15 more pieces of eggs. So total of 30 pieces of eggs can fit inside one basket. I do not have 30 pieces of eggs right now because I've used up a lot of them already, obviously, but it's good to know that I can fit a total of 30 pieces of eggs. I'm putting the egg basket where the egg crate was earlier, and if you notice, this is actually saving me a lot of space. Earlier, the wider egg crate occupied the whole top of the shelf. I'd like to share with you some projects that I have done using or reusing packaging materials. Let's get started. Here are a couple of carriers for some drinks. I think these are for cold boba drinks, and I didn't want to throw them away, so I figured I can use this to organize our drawer. So here I'm putting some wires for my electronics, as well as clips and rings and paper clips and tapes. So instead of me buying items, even though they're inexpensive, I can reuse whatever I have already. And here are other ones like the boxes. We all have these packaging boxes or shipping boxes from Amazon, especially now it's getting closer to the holidays again. So I have some ideas here that may be able to be of help for you. This is a shallow box that has the depth of my drawer for my pots. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut off the flaps of the boxes, and then what I did, instead of throwing them away, I reinforced the bottom of the box itself, and voila, I have an organizer, an instant organizer for my pots and pans. I love using this because, like I said, it's shallow, but it's wide enough for me to be able to organize my pots and pans. I don't need to buy expensive organizers or even liners for my drawers. I will just use this, and if it becomes so dirty enough that, but I also use them to line the dirty shoes in my mudroom. I am reusing them. So for example, like this one, I can reuse anything that has a lot of grease from my pot holder, then I can reuse them to hold my shoes. So, or my boots. So here is our mudroom, and this is where we enter the house. So instead of us bringing in the dirt or putting the shoes with mud at the bottom, they can stay here. Here are other ways that I use shipping boxes in organizing my home. And bear in mind, these are not really aesthetically Pinterest worthy, but if you're keeping them in a cabinet or hidden from view, it's not going to be as unpleasing to the sight. The important thing here is being practical. So for example, here I put my extra needs for my kitchen, and here this shipping box, the USPS shipping box, is very good to recycle or upcycle. And this is for my blender and hand mixer. So if you have small appliances that you want to put away, and also some of the tools that you use for your kitchen, this is a great way to hide it and organize it, again, hidden from view. This is when labeling the boxes makes sense, especially if the boxes are situated or located at the back, or if the boxes are huge and hiding the contents, and like the blender and the hand mixer. And here's another one for my packaging ties. So if it's gonna be a little bit out of reach or in plain sight, then I would have to label. These are Scotch tapes and Velcros. So I could put here, it doesn't have to be a pretty label as you could see here. And the one here in the front, I could see the contents, and even the bananas, I could see them. I don't need to really label them. And another ones that I label are the ginger and the garlic. And then behind it, I have a bigger box for my tubers like the potatoes and the yams. And these are the ones that do not need to be in the refrigerator because it's best to store them this way in boxes. And I even put some packaging materials there made of paper, recyclable items when I put them away so that they will stay fresh for a while. I have some peanuts here, the yucca. Again, I labeled them because the boxes are deep or bigger. Here, the empty bottles as well. I cannot see them right away. And behind those, there are 2 more boxes of empty containers that I use for organizing. And yeah, so if you want to make them aesthetically pleasing, you can actually make use of decorative paper, even excess wallpaper or gift wrapping paper or scrapbooking paper, whatever you have. Or if you can paint them, you can also paint them, but I keep them like this. It's a practical way of putting or organizing my kitchen items as well as my tubers and other produce that don't need to be in the refrigerator. And here's another one where I use boxes. I just lid the sides and make sure that I keep one of the flaps. I fold the other 3 flaps and it becomes an instant cover for my recycling bin. Here's another box organizer that I want to use for organizing one of my kitchen drawers. Since we just moved in here, we need a temporary organizer for utensils. This packaging box is shallow. It fits inside the drawer. I'm able to close and open the drawer. I'm just going to remove the dividers first. I'm going to cut this flap here of cardboard, and this is what it looks like after I cut. And I did not do the bottom part. I'm placing a couple of layers of paper towel at the inner bottom part. And then I'm gonna put back the dividers in place. Here are forks, spoons, knives that will be put in place inside the organizer. So I'm just gonna put them in each section of the divider. And voila! And since this is not the exact fit, there's still a space behind the box, so I put my can opener there to maximize the space. I am going to be organizing our kitchen junk drawer. I have this small packaging box that I set aside after I opened up the package because I know that I need a container for my small items like this. Tools that I have, the nuts, the bolts, anything that's loose that were inside the drawer, I'm just putting a place where I can house them. So instead of throwing it away and adding to the landfill, I've decided to just use it. This is small enough so that even if I put this inside this drawer, it will fit. There'll be enough clearance for me to close and open the drawer. So I've been able to put these small trinkets, the small items here, and the drawer looks much neater. And for the extra cables, I'm going to be using this packaging. What's good about this is I can just seal it like so. And then I'm going to be placing it in this drawer where I place my battery and that box that I organized earlier, as well as my tools. that's that. And for this one, I've decided to use this for my notepads and these index cards here. So I'm going to put the index cards. Got some notepads here, the colorful ones that came from the other drawer. There's still some pads here. The pens. All I need to do is just close it. I really love this packaging a lot because they're neat, they're neutral, and also the right height for the depth of the drawer. And here on the smaller one, I've been putting the rubber bands and twist ties for future use. And I can use the holes to just insert what I need to put in without lifting the cover. And speaking of neutral organizers, the iPhone boxes come in white and they're very neutral. And I like using them because they're very sturdy and very good at compartmentalized organization inside my drawers. For example, if I have something that I know I might have a hard time finding, I need to find them right away, like remote controls, my power banks, my ear pods, and everything in between. So I use them also, and I like that in this drawer it makes it more neutral along with the other two boxes that I used earlier. Here's another packaging material that's worth reusing. It's an old case for my daughter's old pair of eyeglasses. She now uses it to organize her eye drops as well as her contact lenses. So this is the view of our drawer here, organized neatly. They do say cute things come in small packages, but in the small package it can also act as a good organizer, like this one here that used to house our Ring camera. So I'll just cut the flaps here, the 3 flaps, and I'll show you that I don't necessarily just totally throw away the things that I cut, especially the ones at the top, and I've shown you that on the other shipping boxes that I assembled, like the box from Amazon. So I cut this and then I reinforce the bottom with an extra one. It may not be needed, but it really helps in reinforcing it, especially where the folds are. And then I will use this to organize my pens as well as my scissors or even my cutters. So you can use this. I mean, you can wrap this with decorative paper, cardstocks, or even scrapbooking paper or excess gift wrapping paper if you want to put this out on display. But this is very durable. You don't need to buy anything. And if it's hidden, like what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put it again inside a cabinet or a cupboard, out of sight, out of view, then I don't really need to cover it. Here's a similar box. The only difference is that there's a divider inside. So I'm going to be using this to organize my sewing kit. So I'm just going to be cutting also the flaps. But here I'm just cutting first just the 2 flaps, the one on each side, the smaller flaps, and then keeping the cover intact. I need the cover so that the things that are inside, even if I carry this one, let's say I put it in another bag or my sewing bag, then I have an organizer inside my sewing bag and things will not fall off this box because it has a lid. I can also opt to probably put a small strip of Velcro on each side or on the lid so that when I close it, it can fasten easier. And here's my organizer that came from another packaging item. I will be linking it in the upper right hand corner. I have a video when I created this about maybe a couple or 3 years ago, And that's where I showed also that, yeah, you can cover anything if you want to make it look nicer. But here, the two compartments are really helpful in keeping things corralled. So the two small scissors that I have, as well as that sewing kit, will be on the right side, and on the left side will be all my threads. And some small rolls of yarns. I got this way back when. I think they came in a pack of 4 from Dollar Tree for $1. And I can keep them here, and then I can just put the cover back in place. I just want to show you another iteration of that organizer for the desktop, or the pencil and scissors organizer, by removing the cover or the lid or this bigger flap here. I can use this for anything else, and if it is taller than the box itself. For example, putting my tall or long scissors here, big scissors, and then I can even put some pencils again, or pens and markers, highlighters, as well as even my magnifying glass. The divider in the middle allows for a better organization so that the bigger ones are corralled in their spaces. Here's another packaging material that I really like a lot. If you're familiar with some brands of feminine razors that have cartridges with the blades that has soap, I think this one is Intuition, and this is where the cartridge is originally housed. And I use it for pills or vitamins or even pins and paper clips, and it fits inside the purse. Here's another organization idea using a packaging box that is shallow and also wide. I am just going to be folding the 3 parts here, one long one and the 2 short ones on each side, like so. And then I'm keeping the other long side so it will be my lid. It's the perfect style and size to use as a filing box. When organizing my paperwork, I usually use or reuse packaging materials such as this one. This is made of plastic and it has a zip on top so that whatever I can put in wouldn't be dislodged. So this is a packaging material for products that are made of fabric. So they can be blouses, undergarments, or any clothes wear. So I'm showing you here that some of my paperwork, I put them in a plastic zip packaging material like this because I think that you need to protect your paperwork as well before I put it in a filing box. That way, if I need to separate them and kind of categorize them, it's easier for me to pick and choose rather than putting them just bare without any cover. It's easier for me. Sometimes I put a sticky note or a label so that I know which one I'm picking out, but sometimes I just look at the content and it's easier again for sorting things out. I put my warranty paperwork, some of my paper bills that I still need the paper statements for. I also use it for those instruction manuals that came with some of the products that we use at home, like appliances, like I said, the warranty paperwork, and even some of the empty folders I put here, and then some reading materials like magazines or catalogs, and then I place this underneath my desk, and then I just slide it next to me. And then the good thing is it has a cover and it didn't cost me a dime. Here's another packaging material that I love to reuse or upcycle. It's an empty bottle of creamer. So first, what I'm going to do is remove this label here. And what I like about this one, it's really easy to remove. I just need to at least use a probably sharp cutter or scissors, which I'm going to use here, and then I'll just unravel it. And then what I'm going to do next is wash it thoroughly. Even though this has been used by the manufacturer, and you could tell it is really food safe and has gone through some stringent sterilization, because it has been used, I have to also do my due diligence in washing it and making sure that I can still reuse it. So thoroughly clean the inside part of the bottle, either using the bottle brush that you use for washing baby bottles or jars. I have here a silicone type of brush, and just clean it, use a detergent or dishwashing liquid, use warm water or hot water to rinse it, and rinse it carefully and then dry it. So I am going to be using it to organize or to hold my creamer as well as sugar. So this one is already prepped and I've used this a lot. I'm going to be putting here powdered creamer, and I'm using this funnel so that I can just scoop up this creamer so that I can load it up neatly. I'm reusing the top, and that'll be my dispenser. I'm going to be using this other one. If you notice, there are different colors. So one is a little darker than the other. The one on the right I'll be using for the sugar. And I like that the top is white to differentiate the two, because I don't want to always label the things. You can tell the difference between two items like the creamer or the sugar. But to help also, it's good to have those two different types of or shade of lids. So the other one was hazelnut flavor, so it has a sort of a tan or taupe color of lid, while this one has white for the sugar. So I'm making sure that I tightly put the lids so that there'll be no accidental spillage. I will show it to you in a little while how I am going to be putting this on top of our counter for our coffee maker. Here are packaging materials that I love to reuse as well. These are the to-go box containers for when you eat out, or the takeout boxes or containers. So I know they're made of plastic, so I just don't want to add to the landfill. That's why I'm trying to reuse anything. And since this looks like it's durable, and again, has been used to contain food, so it should be food safe, I just thoroughly wash them and I reuse them. I'll show you how I'm going to be using one of the top or the lids to organize this area where we also prepare our hot drinks. So I have this Dollar Tree container that I purchased years ago, back when the prices were just still $1 at the Dollar Tree, and this is where I place my coffee pots. And I will link in the upper right hand corner a lot of my coffee pod DIYs using Dollar Tree materials. So that tray also becomes a space for where I can put my coffee and also my creamer and my sugar. So they are a way to organize without using big bulky trays or even spending a lot of money. I've shown also that other lid, this round one that I use, so that when I am replacing or preparing coffee, I have a spot to put my used coffee pod so that I do not put too much spillage on the counter, and that's also washable. And that's where I put my teaspoon as well, to rest it there so that I don't rest it on the countertop and I don't have to use another saucer. I've also reused that same container for the creamer. I've washed it thoroughly as well for dispensing oil. And I like that you can just lift the top, flip it up, and then lock it tight so that the oil will be secured in place. And I use it also for soy sauce. There's a smaller version of the same bottle. Sometimes we buy in bigger bulk or bigger container, and sometimes they don't fit in here. So what I do is I just pour the oil or the soy sauce or any sauce for that matter in that same container. Now you've seen me show the bottom part, which is the black bottom tray, so I'm using it to organize also those condiments on the top right, and that keeps them safe and clean. On the top shelf, you will also see me using the same to-go containers to store my extra condiments, like for example sachets of seasonings. Another way that I use the top lid is to use it like a paper plate, but it's made of plastic and it's reusable and washable. Since it's made of plastic, I'm just being very careful not to burn it. And even though it is microwave safe, according to the label on top of the plastic lid, I'm still being careful. What I put here is not too hot that it would cause any burn or melting. So far so good. Like for example, I just toasted these pieces of bread and it didn't melt the lid because it can take a certain degree of temperature. I'm just not sure what it is, but it is, like I said, it's microwavable. It's actually also dishwasher safe. So what I like about this one, unlike when I use the paper plate, I have to toss that paper plate. Sometimes they don't accept that at the recycling center because of the food remnants or oil, but this one, at least I can reuse it. It's as light as a paper plate. I don't have to buy extra plates or ceramic plates that are heavier. At least this one, for my own snacks, I can use this even for fruits, you know. And again, like I'm showing here, I can use it for some hot items also, like toasted bread. And since I mentioned already that it's dishwasher safe, it also saves space in my dishwasher. If I'm going to use the dishwasher for this and I don't have to wash it right away, I can use several of this, which I have several of this, and then it's easier because it doesn't eat up so much space inside my dishwasher. So I like this a lot. Strictly for personal use only. I don't serve this for my guests. Another way to reuse your food storage, I like reusing especially the bigger ones because I like that they have the depth. So because they're food safe, pretty much the default items that I use to store in this types of container are items that need to be in a food safe container, right? So for example, if I want to do food prep and I'm prepping the garnishes or my ingredients, as long as I wash it thoroughly, disinfect it, and I can put my cut vegetables here so that the next time I cook, they're ready to go. It's good for planning your meals, for example. You could cut the ingredients ahead of time and then just put them here so that before you cook them, you can just store them in your refrigerator. Now, another way I use this is for my freezer section. After shopping for my meat, I just want to be able to store them in my freezer without compromising the other items in my freezer, because sometimes I stack items and if they're still fresh, sometimes they may come with blood. Now, I would sometimes pre-rinse or pre-wash them and then put them in this container that I can just lock up, you know, with this cover and then just put that in my freezer. But sometimes I do want to keep them in their packaging, okay? Simply because sometimes I have, you know, certain meats that I don't want to mix up and I have limited room in my refrigerator. So I just use this kind of like a liner storage. So what I do is I put a couple of trays can actually fit because of the depth Okay, so this is deep enough, and then this is high enough to give additional room and space for two. If you have like another thin item there, it would fit as well. Now, if they're the same type of meat, I can actually just pre-wash, pre-rinse, or even pre-cut. Like for example, when I told you about prepping meals for my ingredients, I can do the same thing with the cut meat. So here, I can just put this in the freezer this way, and this fit exactly in the freezer and sealed it. And let me show you. So this just fits right into here, and it still gives me enough room for other items. So I can put, for example, my poultry meat in a different kind of container so that I can put it on top of this container as well if I have additional ones. And then I can put, let's say, the fish meat in another container as well. I'm gonna put my chicken here, and so this one here for the ground beef, I can also corral it with this and make sure that nothing will drip. Sometimes that happens, especially, let's say, unexpectedly the power goes off. Right? Make sure it's packed tight. Hear it click, there you go. And then I can put it here. See? I also use these food containers to organize or store my plastic utensils or flatwares, and then I bring them with us in our car so that when we're on the go and we have to eat, we have flatwares. And although I don't really like flatwares that are plastics, but they're free, so why not use them rather than throwing them away? I also love to use these food containers to store my baked goodies, just like these gluten-free cupcakes. Yummy! They last longer, they have enough clearance even for frosting if I have to have them frosted. Or if I have more cupcakes, I actually can double up and stack them one on top of each other and still have enough room for the cover. To organize my tea bags inside the drawer, I'm also using the smaller size of food containers. These are some of my tea bags. These are not all of them. And at the other house, I have more. And here I have quite a bit as well, different flavors. My daughter and I are more of tea drinkers than coffee drinkers. I like the smaller containers because I can use multiple of them inside this drawer, and then I can have different flavors in each one. Because the packets come very small, so it can hold a lot for a small container. And I can reconfigure them the way I can position them in order for me to organize the drawer better. I also like that it's very shallow, and it's perfect for this low depth drawer. Speaking of tea bags, I have empty tea bag tin cans. Actually, this one that I'm going to show you still has about 4 more pieces, but I have a lot of them. My daughter buys this specific brand and she likes this jasmine tea, but then when it's already empty, I repurpose it for storing my packets of seeds. It's the perfect size and shape for my packets of seeds, like these seeds that I have here. We have a lot of these tin cans. So what I've done is organize them in alphabetical order. Each tin can hold up to 25 to 30 packets of seeds. It's good to use this kind of storage because in storing seeds, you have to make sure that it's in a dry and cool place. So I have a few of these tin boxes that I stack up together in our cupboard. I'm about to start planting or sowing seeds and getting ready for my fall planting so that by spring I can move them from the greenhouse shelf. So I will take this opportunity also to share my new channel that I am about to launch, and it's about my home and garden projects. So if you are interested, I will be linking it in the description box below and also in the upper right hand corner. Just click on it so you can go to that channel, and that's where I am going to be uploading the things or the projects that I am doing outside of this channel, that is more specific to kind of like a vlog type, where I will do some planting, gardening, home improvements, even home decors. That's where I'm going to be presenting even the projects that I've created here in my life DIY Josie. I want to show you how I really use them around the house. So yeah, with these 2 tin cans, I was able to store approximately 30 in each, and they are a total of 60 seed packets. And for those who are doing a lot of gardening, this would be an inexpensive way to store your seed packets. Here's another food safe container that I like to reuse. This is a gelato container, a jar. It's made of plastic, but it is freezer safe. So I use this to store homemade desserts that I can keep in the freezer section, and some of the cut fruits, fresh fruits, and also some veggies, onions. I also use this for also the homemade nectar for my hummingbird feeder. I can keep them every time I prepare and cool them down and keep in the refrigerator. So speaking of to-go containers, these are also some of the favorite ones that I have that I can share with you. This is a plastic container. When you buy something that has soup and you want to bring home your leftover, or sometimes they package your order with this. Let me show you what I've used it for: to organize our cut green onions in the refrigerator before I put them in, so that I don't have to buy new containers. So I wash the green onions and onion leaves, and then I chop them up already and place them in the container. Same thing with the lemons. We wash them thoroughly and then cut them so that we can organize what we need each day. And I like that they're clear. You could see what's inside without rummaging through different assortments of containers, and then I'll just place them in our refrigerator. And I like that you can stack them up one on top of the other, so you can actually put them all together in one spot on a shelf. You usually use the top shelf. Now for dry goods or items, I have this honey oats, and I use the same container because sometimes we buy them and they come in those big boxes. What I do is I also put them here, like this one is chocolate chips, so when we're baking we know where to find them. And you see one on top that I put a label because there are certain items that look similar or identical, so that we don't make any mistakes in choosing the items. So I put a label. But if I know that the item is very identifiable and easy to identify, I don't need a label. For example, this is my cat's food, our cat's food. So the dry food, all I need to do is just look at it and say, okay, this is for the cat, that's not for humans. And of course, the pet foods are on the different section of our pantry or shelf. Still using the same organizer, I'm going to be organizing this cereals so that I can get rid of the cereal box. Plus it eats up so much space in our cupboard or pantry. So I'm going to be using this container here, and then I'm just going to be putting in these cereals. And I don't need the label again because I can identify what type of cereals I'm putting in. For example, this one, I could see that there are some dried strawberries, so I could also identify it by looking through this transparent or see-through container what's inside. So again, I don't really need to label it. I like labeling stuff, but if I can identify it, and it's practical for me not to label it. On the next episode, I will be showing you how I use the free packaging materials to organize my pantry. So stay tuned for that. Here's another purpose for those to-go soup containers. I often replant our cuttings. So for example, this is more like a hydroponic, I think, style of regrowing vegetable cuttings. So this is a lettuce, or we call it bok choy also, or pechay. And I cut that, and that was like 2 days or 3 days ago. I used that for my green onions as well. As you could see, I just cut one and then keep them in a rubber band, and then just put some water on below, and then that's where I grow them or regrow them so that we can use them again. Hi. Hi. You like that box? Oh, you marked it, huh? Now it's yours. And for the surplus of boxes, especially the durable ones, give them to your cats. They seem to love boxes. Like my cat here, Abernathy, she loves boxes, and she actually inspects the boxes first when we have delivery. So she claimed this one already. Easy DIY zero waste organizers. First, I'm going to be using this packaging material. It's a box packaging for bottled tea. I'm going to be making an easy organizer for hot drinks that you can use anywhere around the house. This is especially useful for small spaces like in a dorm room. I'm also going to be using this packaging material for my ring floodlights that I used outdoors. But I'm going to be cutting this. There are these two identical sections that I can use to separate things in that organizer that I am creating for my hot drinks. So I'm just cutting them. I'm planning on using one for my coffee sachets and the other one for my tea bags. And this one is where things were packed for cords and adapter or extensions. So this organizer will not need any special tool except for my scissors. So I'm going to be putting those two compartments, and I'm just going to be showing you how I'm going to be arranging it. What's good about this not being glued or attached permanently is that I can change it anytime, or I can even lift the internal subdividers so that I can also use them individually if need be, or if I have to remove them. The good thing about not being attached is the ease of reconfiguring also, and ease of rearranging things. Now, since the bottom of this boxes, as you can see, has a hole or a round hole or a circle, I am going to be cutting a square that will fit inside just to block that circle or round opening, because I'm going to be putting my sachet drinks there and it may fall through the hole. So I'm just going to do them on both boxes just in case. I would prefer the elongated sachets rather than the tea bags to put different flavors in each box. So at least I already have the bottom. You can put an adhesive here to attach it permanently. As I said, I don't really need any extra tool except for my scissors, so I don't even need to put a tape or hot glue that bottom, because I just want it to be as simple as possible. So here are the instant coffee that comes in a sachet, and here are my tea bags. They fit perfectly the height of the sachet coffee and then the width of the tea bags. I am trimming to size this piece here. This used to house the USB cord used for recharging the outdoor Ring cameras. So I am going to be cutting it to size to the same height and width that fits snugly in the space behind one of the boxes, the box that contained the sachet coffee. As you can see, it fits snugly here, like it's a perfect fit. Well, almost. And it will also fit my stirrers, my wooden stirrers for mixing my hot drinks. As you can see, there's still enough space for more stirrers as well as for more coffee sachets and tea bags. I'm just using enough for demonstration purposes. I'm also going to make another container or compartment for some sachet sugar and creamer. So I am going to be moving the cups to this corner here and also the lids for the cups. And I'm going to be using this space here to put another small box. Another upcycling or zero waste DIY by using this empty packaging box. I am going to be marking the height of this box here, and I'm going to be cutting it to that height. Since the sachets for the creamers and also for the sugars are shorter than the tea bags and the coffee and stirrers, this will be shorter than the other three boxes so that they will be in easy reach. So I am going to be placing it here, and I'm going to be cutting again a small piece of cardboard to put at the bottom to reinforce the bottom. Again, you can use adhesive tape or double-sided tape or even glue to put this in place more permanently, but putting it there snugly is fine as well. It just reinforces the bottom so that it will not unravel. And I'm just gonna be placing my sugar here for now, but again, it will also fit some of the creamers if need be. And this small personal hot drink station is finished. Like I said earlier, it's perfect for small spaces. If you have a guest room and you're expecting guests, you can also set it up with an electric kettle like the one shown on this photo. Now, another problem that I want to solve is this. Oftentimes when I open the refrigerator, things on this side here on the shelf often topples, especially this big or tall tube that I have that is a container to insulate my insulin when I travel, but I always keep it there just in case I leave the house. It's for on-the-go insulin. So I have this packaging material that I have kept, and I believe this has contained a bottle, and it is the perfect size for this tube or insulated tube for my insulin. So instead of me throwing this away and buying another organizer, I am just reusing what I have on hand. And what's good about this one is made of styrofoam, and it's soft, and it's not going to scratch the surface of my refrigerator. And another thing is it's not gonna break. So even if the tube or insulated tube for my insulin is heavy and tall, it's not gonna break it. So these are also my insulin bottles. So I often keep at least 3 inside this small container. It's a food container, but I think that the space here in the front, as you can see, this organizer is divided, and it has this rectangular space that I can fit 3 to 4 bottles of insulin, so that when I need to take my insulin every day, I can just pull it out there, and then when I travel, I can have that insulated insulin container or tube, and I can just put it there along with my syringes. So that solves the problem of it toppling. See here, I'm moving the refrigerator door to show you that it doesn't topple anymore, and it's just snug there and it fits perfectly. So I didn't even have to DIY. I just want to reuse the packaging material as is, and it made sense. It's just perfect, and I know not everyone will have the same issue. I'm just showing you how I solve my problems when it comes to these dilemmas that I have every day without spending any money and without throwing anything into the landfill to add to the problems of our environment. This next DIY, I'm going to be using this empty canola oil bottle. This is a plastic bottle, and some of you may not have the tools like the heating tool. I do have one, but I'll show you what you can do if you do not have a cutting or heat tool. Well, you can use your box cutter like this one. It's X-Acto knife, and I just turned on our gas stove. If you don't have a gas stove, you can use a lighter or a candle, and you can just use and heat it up on the flame. And then I'm just going to be slicing through around where there's an indentation or line around. I'm keeping the wrapper for now so that it will be my guide when I'm cutting through to cut the top portion, because I'm going to be using the bottom portion as another organizer. So it's just gonna be a little bit of work. It took me a while to get the hang of it, but once you get the hang of it, you can cut this without any issues. So what I'm showing here is that whatever you have, if you don't even have an X-Acto knife, you can have a sharp knife. I think every household has a knife at least to cut, and you can use that as well. Just hit the tip to cut through plastics cleanly. You can also use a pair of scissors without the heat gun or heat tool. However, it's better if you have a clean cut like this one here. Now, I just washed this with soap and warm water, and I'm now drying it with some napkins. I'm using the adhesive tape or clear packing tapes to cover and offer protection on those sharp edges of the cut bottles, because they're sharp that you can have cuts, and it's for precautionary measure as well. So do not forget this step. This is an important step, that you cover whatever sharp edges you have with this clear packing tape. You can also use washi tapes or any masking tapes that will adhere permanently, because I'm going to be using this inside the refrigerator. Other tape materials may not stay because of the humidity inside the refrigerator. You may want to use something like this packaging material tape or packing tapes, because they can stay on. I'm running my fingers through around the perimeter to ensure that the tape adheres securely. So I'm going to be placing here my aloe lotions, and oftentimes when I open and close the refrigerator door, they topple over. I'm finally able to corral them using this DIY, no frills, zero cost, zero waste upcycling. And I like that it fits perfectly in this corner here as well. And even when I close the refrigerator several times, it will not topple over, or it will not fall off, or it will not be messy, and I can maximize the use of my shelf inside the refrigerator. So that's another free organizer for you if you have empty cooking oil bottles. Speaking of empty cooking oil bottles, here's another one, and I'm just using the same technique, and I'm cutting the top, but I'm leaving at least an inch or half an inch that is still connected, because I'm not gonna separate the two parts where I cut through. And I'm gonna be wrapping again using my packing tapes around on top of the edges to protect my fingers or anyone who's going to be using this. So both sides or both portions, the bottom portion and the top portion, I will be also wrapping with this clear packing tapes for extra protections from cuts. I was going to leave this label here because it's perfect for what I'm going to be putting it here. It says heart healthy, but I just realized that maybe I shouldn't, so I just ripped it off and just left some kind of white paper there, and then I can just mark it off next time. But then I'm just going to continue finishing wrapping this sharp edges with the packing tapes. Now that I'm satisfied that I wrapped every space that has a sharp edge, I am now placing this green onions or the onion leaves, the bulbs, and I'm gonna keep them inside. You can use this also for stalks of asparagus or beans or anything tall, but I like to use this for these green onions with the roots at the bottom, and I can keep them secure, and I can grow them inside the refrigerator as well. Have you tried growing onions inside a refrigerator? I never thought it worked, but it did. And that keeps also those fruit flies or those small flies away. So I just place a little bit of water there, about maybe 1/4 cup of water at the bottom. And keeping this as a topper can allow for the growth on the top as well for height, for additional height. So I'm placing it here again. You can place it anywhere in the refrigerator, but best to put it on the shelf, on one of the door shelves of the refrigerator. So I'm just placing it here since I've been working on this shelf. This already looks nice as it is, but then I have this container. You wouldn't believe it. This is a freebie. This is where free comes in. And this is the container that I like. This is the container for baby spinach that you can get at the groceries. And instead of throwing it away, I love using this container as an organizer also. Like I said, it's free, and it can also look similar or mimic the look of those expensive containers, like the acrylic containers that you can get at the expensive retail shops where you get those organizers. And this is a freebie. So if you also buy these types of spinach or vegetables that have this container, don't throw it away. This is perfect. This is another container that you can utilize without costing you an extra. So instead of you dumping it into the recycling bin or throwing it away, at least you can utilize this as an organizer. You can either use the top as well, and I opt not to use it because the bags sometimes that I organize are taller. I just need something to corral them. Like for example, this mung beans. So I'm just gonna position this packets or these bags sideways, and I can still see what's inside this container because it's see-through, it's clear. And like I said, what I like about this one, it's deep, it's big, it's light, and it's free. Here's another DIY organization idea that won't break the bank. I will be making 2 pull-out organizers using these 2 packaging boxes that you see here on top of the cube organizer. This is going to be part of a series of upcycling projects. First, I am going to be dismantling this box. I'm going to be disconnecting it from one side. It's just easy to do that. I just look at the seams and then look at where it connects. Usually you will see it from the inner part of the box. Next, I am going to put it back together by turning it inside out. I will be connecting the seams again, but this time the inner part, which is the plain white, will be on the outer part of the box, and then the printed part will be in the inner part of the box, giving the box a more neutral and cleaner look. So I reassemble the box first, and then I will put the seams back together again on the corner where I disconnected earlier. This portion here is a bit tricky and challenging, aside from the fact that my 2 fingers, I do have what you call the trigger fingers, and so it's a little bit painful. That's why you see the slings there, but at the same time it is really tricky to connect the bottom part, but it worked out fine after a few tries. And then what I've decided is to put the corner back together again by using a transparent tape or a packaging tape. And the good thing about this organizer that I'm gonna make, whatever the look that you see here, there's some kind of a rip there that you see. That's because that's where the glue was before. So that's gonna be a little bit of a flaw, but the good thing is this is gonna be the back side of this box. So this will not be showing. To avoid this mistake, what I should have done was to connect it back and where the flap is on the outer part instead of the inner part, as you can see on the inset, to give it a cleaner look. It was a bit late when I realized I didn't want to dismantle this again, but I did it on the second box. Like I said, it doesn't really bother me. This is going to be the back part of the box. After inspecting the box, especially the bottom part, because I don't want that to kind of cave in, I just want to make sure that when I use this, especially if I put something a little heavy, that it will not open up or unravel. So I'm going to make some cuts here. I'll be cutting these flaps that you see around. So first you will see me cutting 3 flaps, but towards the end you will see me cutting the last flap, because I just want to show you the iteration wherein it will have a cover, but finally what the outcome that I had achieved here is an open, kind of like a pull-out drawer style of organizer and no top. But I just want to show you that if you want something that has a top, if you want to kind of stack them up one on top of each other, then you can see an iteration where it has a cover. Like I said, I kept the 4th flap, this longer flap that has the hole on the top, so that I can show you that this can have a cover even though the other 3 flaps were removed. So just in case you still want to have a cover, I was even thinking about using this like a dispenser for garbage bags. That's a possibility too, and then just use the top as a dispenser for the garbage bags. But I'm not using it for that purpose. I'm just showing you that's a possibility. And you know, whenever I do an organizer, I just want it to be multi-purpose and a little bit versatile so that you can use it for different purposes. So next, I'm going to be removing the plastic handle from one of the long flaps that I cut earlier. Then I'm using this flap as a template so that I can use it to guide me to where I'm going to be puncturing the holes, the 2 holes where the handle will be reinserted. As you can see, I'm just using one of the pointed parts of the scissors, but you can use a box cutter or even a blade to cut through, or even a knife, but I just use the scissors because I have it handy already. Then I'm reinserting the handle that I removed earlier, one end to each of the hole. I'm also putting the back guard for the handle so that it doesn't unravel, keeping it secured. I am placing this flap where the handle used to be as a bottom liner. This will reinforce the bottom part of the box. I'm testing out the cover again because at this point I was still not quite sure yet whether I will cut it off or I'm gonna keep it. And because once I cut it, there's no turning back. So at this point, I am just checking it out if this is the look that I want. So I have completed the second box as well, following the same steps. The only difference is the one I mentioned you earlier, that the corner where I cut the seams or disconnect and reconnect, it's a much cleaner look. I'm going to be putting these boxes as a pull-out kind of drawer style organizer inside this cabinet in our kitchen. I'm going to be using these boxes to organize my glass containers, food containers. So first, what I'm going to do here on this first one is to insert a styrofoam, which was also part of the packaging that came with the shipment for those glass containers. However, the original packaging box is no longer usable. Fortunately, this styrofoam is a perfect fit. I'm now going to put in the glass containers to see if they are all going to fit. I have like 5 pieces of this similar size, and I'm going to organize them this way. And that's when I've decided to also cut the last flap because I will not be able to close it. I am going to fold this and then tape them up to the sides instead of cutting them because I think that will weaken those sides. So instead of doing that, I am just going to be taping these 2 pieces here to the box side to keep them in place. Putting it now inside this cabinet, this is the perfect location for me to organize my food containers. And because these are breakable, these glass containers, I am glad that I have a place for them to keep them secured. And I have also the smaller glass containers and other containers here in this cabinet, but I place them also in this box here so that they're secured. And I also have the other refrigerator organizers, and I am going to keep them here. And since this cabinet is just next to the refrigerator, everything will be in easy reach whenever I need to organize the refrigerator. The 2 pull-out boxes worked out perfectly for organizing my containers. I've been trying to think of ways to organize and secure these glass containers because I don't want to break them. Also, since this cabinet shelf is so deep that I would need something that I can easily pull out and push in, and the handles help me accomplish that. I do understand that not everyone will have the same box as I do. You can easily recreate this with any type of box. You can even cover boxes with decorative paper and then use handles made of rope or nautical rope. Dollar Tree sells them. Also, those nylon ropes that they sell at Dollar Tree, they're very durable. Or even from old gift bags that you can just remove the handles, or even use thick ribbons or fabrics. The possibilities are endless. Just use your imagination. Hopefully, this inspires you to do the same thing. Instead of throwing away things, convert them into something more usable and practical. Here's another DIY multi-purpose organizer. For this project, I will need 12 pieces of this box. I will use them into dividers for this box that I'm using as a drawer organizer. For those of you who are not familiar with this is the box that contained a Dexcom G7. This is not sponsored. It's just that I use it for monitoring my glucose level. If you do not have this specific type of box, you can also use something that's similar. This measures 2.5 by 3 inches. You can also use cardboard or poster board or cardstock paper to use as dividers. I'm cutting all the flaps off the open area. I will do the same thing with the other 11 similar boxes. I will be using them as partitions for this box. This is an Amazon shipping box. Again, if you do not have this type of box, this is measured 9 inches long by 6 inches wide and 3 inches high. I'm cutting all 4 flaps and I'm saving the cut flaps so that I can use them as reinforcements. Since the bottom of this box is uneven, I'm going to put one of the small flaps inside in between the other smaller flaps underneath that is of equal size so that I can fill in the void or the gap in between to kind of make it a little bit more level. And then I'm going to be using the 2 longer flaps to add another layer and reinforce the bottom of the box. I'm moving things around and interchanging the position here to make sure that it's more even. At this point, you can put also a masking or packaging tape to secure the bottom. I didn't feel the need to do so, so I proceeded to adding the small boxes inside the bigger box. As you can see, the 12 identical small boxes fit inside this bigger shipping box from Amazon. I'm going to test it out and use it as an organizer inside this drawer in our bathroom. I already took out the items. I am just cleaning it out with wipes to make sure that I also remove the dust and the dirt. So this can fit exactly the width and also the length, and I can even push it out to the back. I'm using this to organize the smaller items that are loose inside our drawer, and no matter how many different containers I use to organize them, it's hard to find them, and you tend to lose things if you don't see them. So that's why I created this organizer. So instead of creating multiple containers, I created this box with multi-compartments. So many times we look for items and we misplace items as well. It's harder to find them when they're smaller. So I like that this can corral the smaller pieces and keep them organized. Since it's going to be hidden, I didn't need to cover or decorate the box. I often keep it unfinished because it's hidden anyway. I try not to spend more than I have to when I do my DIYs, but feel free to do so if you want to cover the box itself, the bigger box, and keep the inside as is. It will be covered by the items I'm organizing, so I opted to leave it as is. Again, feel free to cover each one or even the bigger box. If you do not want the brown shipping box, cover it with fabric, with contact paper. There are a lot of decorative, affordable contact paper they sell at Dollar Tree. You can also use scrapbooking paper. As you can see, it can fit a lot of items. We have the hair bands, the alcohol swabs, sanitary napkins, all the other things that you may need, even the cotton buds, even the nail cutter, nail filer, eye drops, makeup wipes, lip tint, lip gloss, lipsticks, and many more. And since this is multi-purpose, it doesn't have to be just inside the bathroom drawers. You can also use this to organize your craft items or your home office items. The possibilities are endless for this organizer. So I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone, and I'll see you again next week for another Thrifty Thursday. Bye!